or profit is better than the standard profit, it is known as the favorable variance. On the other hand, when the actual cost is more than standard cost or profit is better than the standard profit, it is known as unfavorable variance or adverse. Next slide. So the important points of variances are as under. The first one is check and control of wastage is possible. Second, it improves the efficiency of the organization by the use of standard costing. Third, it exercises control over all cost centers, including departments, individual, and so on. Fourth, responsibility of a particular person or department can be fixed. Kalima is the predictions of productions, cost, sales, and profit. Variance analysis is very useful. Six is on the basis of variance analysis, delegations of authority could be made effective. Seven is variance analysis is easy to introduce, apply, and implement. Last is the various operational efficiencies can be measured. So that is the 8 important points of variances. Next. So in features of variances, so naitulo na features of variances in terms of money, standard item o budgeted figure. So in terms of money, for post office, all the variants are calculated and expressed in terms of money. There are always monetary values in as much as the physical variations are the concerns of industrial engineers. Second is the standard item. The minuend should always be the standard item and the subtrahend the actual figure. The remainder between the minuend and the subtrahend is multiplied by the standard index. So in fact, the minuend is the figure from which something is subtracted, and subtrahend it is that something which is subtracted from the minuend. So in other words, if the performance has on the whole been costlier, it is unfavorable variance, and when it is cheaper than it was envisaged, it is favorable. Sa budgeted figure, in budgeted figure, the minuend where the prefix budget is used before the variance, the minuend figure based on the normal. Next. So in types of variances, so initially, standard for all elements of cost should be set, and then the actual cost should be compared with the standard cost to obtain the variances. So some divisions are found when actual performances are recorded and compared with the standard set. So these divisions are known as variances. So variances are classified on the basis of control, of profitability, and also the elements of cost. So on the basis of control, variance may be classified as controllable variance and uncontrollable variance. While on the basis of profitability, with regard to the profitability or effect, variance may be classified into two, which is the favorable variance and the unfavorable variance. While on the basis of elements of cost, through different types of cost. So here in material variances, so these variances includes material cost variances, material price variances, material usage variances, material mix variances, and material yield variances. So first, hindi kita sa material cost variances. So it is the difference between the standard cost of material specified for the output achieved and the actual cost of direct material used. Formula ini siya ng material cost variances. Ibali, NCV equals the standard quantity times standard price. I-subtract siya sa result ng actual quantity times actual price. Ang mga example na ikuan ko man, ang mga example ni is ang next report na magkuan ko man ang mga formula da. Next. Second is the material price variances. It is that portion of the material cost variance which is due to the difference between the standard price specified and the actual price paid. Ang formula niya is the actual quantity, then i-times niya sa result ng standard price minus actual price. Then sa number 3 sa material usage variances, it is a part of the direct material cost determined by difference found between the standard quantity and the use of actual quantity. Later, the difference found is multiplied by the standard price. If UV equals the standard price, then i-times siya sa result ng standard quantity minus actual quantity. Sa number 4, the material mix variances, uh, it is the portions of direct material usage variance, which is the difference between the actual quantities of elements used in a mixture at the standard price and the total quantity of elements used at the weighted average price per unit of elements shown by the standard cost sheets. So sa material mix variances equals standard price, times sa standard mix minus actual mix. So total total weight of standard. Number 5. Yield variances. So this is that portion of the direct materials usage variances which is due to the difference between standard yield specified and the actual yield obtained. So the formula sa material yield variances is standard yield price, then the standard yield minus the actual yield. The SYP equals total standard cost net standard output. Ang next reporter na ang magkuan sa ilang mga examples. Ramoso.
Mabate. So, good morning, everyone. I am Erica Jane Peramoso, and I will be the next reporter. My topic is all about the standard costing variance formula. So, amo ini ang mga formula ng standard. Para masabtan ini niyo nga nakita largo sa mga formula. Para masabtan ini niyo. I-next na ita daw. Sige pa. Ito sa may yellow. So, yari. Amo ini ang standard costing variance formula. First ato i-discuss is a material. Material is actual price times actual quantity. So, i-compare nato sa standard price times actual quantity. So, still actual quantity na gihapon sila. So, ang ila similar is the actual quantity. So, ang kalahian nila is i-compare nato ang price. So, ang tawag nga ni is material price variance as the purchase. Tapos, ang Standard price times standard quantity at the usage naman. So ang ato gigamit kanina quantity, so ang ilang mga similar is standard price. So ang tawag nato nga di is material quantity variance. So at the point usage kung ato sila i-plus, so ang total niya is total variance. Tapos ang sa labor ay amo dagyapon actual price times actual hours is i-compare nato siya sa actual rate times the actual hours. So ang ila total is labor rate variance, and then the standard rate times standard hours is labor efficiency. Amo dagyapon yaon sila. Nga dagyapon ang ila pagka compare. Next. So amo na ini ang sample problem. German company has the following standard for 1 unit product. So direct materials is 80 pounds times $6. And direct labor nato is 3 hours times 16 per hour, and variable overhead is 1.5 machine hour times 50 per hours, and then the fixed overhead is 1.5 machine hours times $30 per hours. So the predetermined overhead rates were developed using the practical capacity of 6,000 units per year. So ang 6,000 ato i-times sa 12 months, di ba ang 1 year is 12 months. So amo yan ang ato practical capacity per month. So during the month, the company produced 525 units. Ang ato actual data for May as are following. So ang direct material purchase and use is 43,000 to 20 pounds times $5.92. And the variable is 43,750 for 800 machine hours, and fixed overhead is in $22 out, di ba? $22,000 800 for 800 machine hours. So next. So ang material variance, 'di ba ang kami itong kaina ang ato kuan ining sa given is ang ato actual price is 5.92 times sa actual quantity is 43,020 pounds. Para makuha natin. Makita. Subugan. Naay. Makita ninyo? Dahil ang manuba. So ang kuan actual price is $5.92 times 43,020. So i-times nato ang result niya is 254,678.40. Ay, 43,020. Diba? 24. 254,678.40. Tapos ang sa standard price of actual quantity is o diretso ko ba? Is ang actual quantity nato is kuan 258,120. Ang ato substandard price, 6,000 dollars times 42,000. Hain sa nato ini gikuha ang kuan 42,000. Sa ang 200 uh, 525 units times 800 pounds is 42,000. I-times to yapon siya 252,000. Tapos ang pagkuha nato ng variance is kuan. Ang 254,678 ato da siya i-minus sa 258,120. Amo yaon ang nakuha na 3,441.60. And then sa kuan sab sa ang pagkuha ng 600,120 is gi-minus ko sab gyapon nato ang 258,120 sa 252,000. Unsaon nato sila pag-judge nga favorable or unfavorable siya. Kaya ang ato actual price is 5.92 tapos ang ato standard price is 6 So mas nakamura siya. Naman favorable material price variance siya. Tapos ang ato 600,120 is unfavorable material siya. Kay na nga kay ang ato kuan standard quantity is kuanda 42,000. Tapos yan obra siya ng gasto na ang iya gasto is 43. So yeah, nobra. Naman ang favorable materials siya. And then sa labor na sub is ang sa labor variance is kuan. Diba next na ay tara. Yan, amo yan ang kuan formula. 24,955 divide 1,550 hours. So, i-divide nato ang resulta is 16.10. Tapos i-multiply the sum nato siya sa 1,550 hours. So, amo yaon ang 24,955. Ang standard rate nato is 16. Tapos ang actual hour is 1,550. So, i-multiply na sub nato, ang resulta is 24,800. And then sa standard price sub is 16 times standard hours is ang 525 units i-times nato sa 3 hours. So, ang resulta is 1,573 hours. Tapos, ang pagkuha nato ng variance, amo dagyapon, 24,955 minus 24,800 i-minus da sila. Tapos, ang pagkuha ng 400 is kuan 24,800 minus 25,200. Nanga siya kuan unfavorable labor rate kay mas dako ang gasto. Tapos ang isa ang 400 nato is favorable efficiency variance kay mas paspas nato iya himo ang pagtrabaho. Kay di ba dapat 1,573 tapos siya himo nato siya ng 1,550 per hour. Ang sa four-way sub is next. Four-way. Next slide, lang. Ito sa four-way overhead variance. Next na ay yaon ang overhead four-way. So amo ang first nato i-solve is ang variable. The actual variable overhead nato is 43,750. Ang ato variable overhead rate times actual quantity is $50 times 800 machine hours. And variable overhead rate times standard quantity is $50. So 8 times da gyapon niya on sila pareho da gyapon out kay ina. 8 times da. I-copy na nato siya kay wa sa iya kakuan. And $50 times 800 machine hours equals 40,000. And then ng hisab, ang 525 units times 1.54 1.5 machine hours is equals to 787.50 machine hours. So $50 times 787.50 is 39,375. Para makuha nato ang variance, amo dagyapon gi minus dagyapon ang 43,750 minus 40,000. Amo yan ang 350 and then 40,000 minus 39,375 is 625. Unsaon sab nato siya pag-judge na nga kuan siya unfavorable. Pareho sila unfavorable. Kay tungod ang 40,000 is dapat ang ato kwarta is 40,000 na nga iyanobra ko ng 43,750. Amo da sab gyapon nga ni sa 625 ang favorable gyapon siya kay dapat 787 da ang ato kuan standard quantity na nga milapas siya ng 800 machine hours. Sa next. So, ang sunod is fixed. The actual fixed overhead is nato is ang given nga to is 22,800. Ang 6,000 units per year i-times nato gyapon sa 12 months. Amoy tapos times 1.5 machine hours times $30. So ang kuan total niya is 22,500. Ang ato standard fixed overhead is 525 units times 1.5 machine hours times $30. So, ang total niya is 23,625. So, i-times dag-apon nato sila. So, ang pagkuha gyapon ng ato variance is same dagyapon. I-minus mo dagyapon. Ang 22,800 i-minus mo sa 22,500. So, amo yaon ang 300. And then, ang 22,500 sa i-minus mo dagyapon siya sa 23,625. Na nga siya unfavorable. Unfavorable siya kay ang ato budget is 22,500. May sobra ka ng 22,800. Na nga volume kay mas gamay ang naka-budget kaysa standard nimo nag-expect na 23,625 pero ang naka-budget nato is 22,500. Naman favorable ang ato 23,625. Ano nagka sa 3 freeway. Next. Sa 3 na ay Tay, hello. Yan. Gitna ay. So, ang ato overhead three-way is actual variable overhead plus actual overhead fixed overhead. So, 43,750 plus 22,800. So, ang result is 66,550. And then, ang ato actual quantity times variable overhead rate plus budget fixed overhead. So, ato formula nga di is 800 machine hours times 50 plus 22,500. So, ang result is 62,500. Sa standard quantity times variable overhead rate plus budgeted fixed overhead is 525 units, 525 units times 1.5 machine hours times $50 plus 22,500. So, 61,875. Ang ato sab standard quantity times variable overhead rate plus standard quantity times fixed overhead rate. So, amay ni ang kuam 525 units times 1.5 machine hours times 50 plus 525 units times 1 point machine hours times 30. So, ang result niya is 63,000. Pareho na gyapon kay ina. Ang 66,550 minus na gyapon nato siya sa 62,500 naman makuha siya ng 4,050. And then the 62,500 minus 61,875 is 625. And then sa kuam pareho na gyapon 61,875 minus 600 63,000 is 1,125. 125. So, ang ato 4,050 is unfavorable spending variance. Tapos, ang ato sub 625 is unfavorable efficiency variance. And ang ato 1,125 is favorable volume variance. And next is the two-way. The two-way. Next na ay sa two-way hilo. Ang two-way overhead variance is actual overhead plus actual fixed overhead. So, ang given nga di is 43,750 plus 22,800. So, ang result niya is 66,550,000. And then is, ang ato standard quantity times variable overhead rate is plus budgeted fixed overhead is 525 units times 1.5 machine hours times $50 plus 22,500. So, ang result is 61,875. Ang sa standard quantity sub is 525 units times 1.5 machine hours times $50 plus 50 uh, 525 unit times 1.5 machine hours times 30 is equals 63,000. Ang pagkuha na gyapon nato ng variance is same na gyapon. 66 minus 61 ang may ang yakuha nato na 4,675 and then the 61,875 minus 63,000 is 1,125. So pareho sila ang ato 4,675 is ang favorable budget variance. And then ang ato 1,125 is favorable volume variance. And last is the one way. One way to another. Next na ay. So ang one way nato is actual variable plus actual fixed overhead. So ang sa given is 43,750 plus 22,800 so equals 66,550,000. And then ang ato standard quantity of variable overhead rate plus standard quantity times fixed overhead rate is 525 unit times 1.5 machine hours times 50 plus 525 unit times 1.5 machine hours times 30 so equals 63,000. So ang 66,550 minus 63,000 is 3,550. So unfavorable siya. Total head, ang total head variance niya is under applied. Nanga under applied siya kay kuan. Ang ato actual overhead is 66,550. Your applied is overhead is 63,000. So yan tong ato 3,550 ay under applied. Naka under applied siya kay ang ato gi-applied is 63,000 lang. Kaya ang ato gi-applied so ang under applied siya kay ang variance analysis purposes ay unfavorable. Kaya ang ato standard is 63,000 pero ang ato nagigastos sa overhead na actual is 66,550. Muna ito. That's all. Next slide palihog. Sige pa.
Sunod na niya ang naipali. Na ay next slide na ipalihog sa essential effective variance. Yeah. So, so 'di ba ang variance report is usually ginagamit para ma-analyze or ma-identify ng business ang difference ng budget o actual performance. So ang variance report, it compares planned financial outcomes with the actual financial outcomes. This helps this helps business to identify any areas where they are performing well or areas they need to improve. Moreover, it is essential that the management should act speedily to investigate variances and, where possible, make decisions to prevent recurrence of adverse variances. So para effective ang variance report, uh, the following points for effective reporting under standard costing should be considered. Number one is the report should be simple, clear, and quick. If report if the report fail to inform the management in a lucid and ambiguous manner of what has taken place and what action may be taken, they should not fully serve their purpose. So the report the report should present the result of the given period and evaluate the level of efficiency achieved. The report should put forth comparison of results obtained with those planned. Special care should be taken of significant variances and thereby ensuring the principle of exception rule. Variance reports should profus- profusely make use of charts and graphs wherever possible. Next slide na pala. Next slide na. Yan. Presentation of variance. It is essential that the details of standard and actual cost figures along with variances are presented to the appropriate management. Reconciliation statement is prepared to show standard cost or profit variances and actual cost profit. Balik na ipalihog na to sa kuan. Reconciliation statement. Ibalik na ipalihog. Ibalik pa sa kuan. Sa 39, page 39, palihog. Yan. So, sa reconciliation of variances, nga ni nato i-lista tanan na overhead variances. So, magsugod kita sa four-way, yan four-way nga ha. Four-way. Ilista nato tanan yan overhead variances. Ang pinakauna nato is variable overhead spending variance. Kuan ba ini continuation summary ini nang yung solve agi perform ni nan gisundan nako na reporter. Nga talaga ini gikuha. So ang variable overhead spending variance kaina is 3,750 unfavorable. Tapos variable overheads efficiency variance 625 unfavorable. Tapos fixed overhead spending variance 300 unfavorable. Then fixed overhead volume variance 1,125 favorable. So ang ato pag total is if unfavorable siya, ato siya i-plus. Pero kung favorable siya, minus. So kung ato siya i-total na. Yan siya. So ang variable overhead spending variance nato 3,750 unfavorable. I-plus nato ang variable overhead efficiency variance na 625 unfavorable. I-plus nato siya kay unfavorable. Then 300 ang fixed overhead i-plus gihapon. Then i-minus nato ang fixed overhead volume variance. Amin siya mo total ng 3,500 favorable. Sunod pag nakasunod pa mo. So, i-add na to tanan ding variance siya. Ding variable overhead spending variance 750. Tapos fixed overhead spending variance yadi siya 300. I-plus na to siya. Amaya na nga to total spending variance 4,050 unfavorable. Nakasunod ka mo? So pag ato na sabi total ang variable spending variance na 3,750 gihapon o variable overhead efficiency variance na 620 plus fixed overhead spending variance 300. Pag ato ni siya i-add tanan, amo yan ang ato total budget variance. So 4,675 unfavorable. So sa three-way na sabkita. Sa three-way spending variance nato yading total spending variance $4,050 unfavorable ang spending variance nato. Tapos ang efficiency variance itong 625 unfavorable. Then ang volume variance nato is volume variance 1,125 ang meron nato volume variance 1,125. Then ato yan siya 4,050 plus 625 i-minus nato sa 1,125 kay favorable sa siya at i-minus. Then ang result is 3,550. Sa two-way kita. Two-way budget variance daw ang volume variance. So, itong ato budget variance kay na total budget variance nato is dati 1,675 ang may na nga to budget variance. Tapos sa volume variance nato na 1,125 hapon. Yan. I-minus nato kay kuan favorable sa siya. So ang result sa ato two-way is 3,550 unfavorable gihapon. Tinod sa one way under and overhead amid tong 3,550 total overhead variance 3,550. So ngani nato may bawaan sa reconciliation ngani nato may bawaan sa reconciliation kung sakto ba ang ato pag-report ng variances. Kay ipansin ba niyo na tanan o total nga na is kuan same sila 3,550? Amayan siya ang kilhanan nga sakto nato pag-report ng variances. Kay bisan pa baliktad-baliktaron yan sila ang situation basta kuan dapat gyud same ang total ng overhead variance nila. Ya kasi next slide na sa kuan na kita. Yung disposition. Control ratio. Control ratio. Certain control ratio commonly used in the management for the use in controlling operations. Three important ratios are given below. Efficiency ratio, standard are equivalent to work produced expressed as percentage of actual hours spent in production. So ang formula ng efficiency ratio is equal to standard hours for actual output divided by actual hours work times 100. Activity ratio. Standard are equivalent to the work produced expressed as a percentage of budgeted standard hours. So ang formula is activity ratio is equal to standard hours for actual output divided by budgetary hours times 100. Capacity ratio. It shows the relation between the actual hours worked and the budgeted hours. Its formula is capacity ratio is equal to actual hours worked divided by budgetary hours times 100. Next slide. So, amayan sa ato sample problem. From the following informations, calculate efficiency ratio, activity ratio, capacity ratio. So ang maximum possible working hours in budget period is 6,000 hours. Ang actual number of working hours is 3,200 hours. Ang budget production in standard hours, 7,200 hours. And sa actual production in standard hours, 6,400 hours. Kaya ang solution nito. So, ibalik sa kuan nito. So, ito ang next step. Sa mga formula na isa control ratio. Ay sa problem ba yan? Dili nga to sa kuan. Next man yun. Yan. Yan. So, kuan ko no efficiency ratio calculate na to una. Yan example. Maklaro niyo? Yan. Efficiency ratio, ang formula is standard hours for actual output divided by actual hours work times 100. So, ang ato nga standard hours for actual output is 6,400. Yan siya sa pinakaubos. I-divide nato sa 3,200 sa amaya na nga to actual hours work. Yan sa ikaduha. I-times nato sa 100. So, 6,400 divided by 3,200 is equal to 2. I-times nato siya sa 100. So, ang total is, ang efficiency ratio nato is 200%. Sunod natin i-calculate ang activity ratio. Activity ratio, ang formula standard hours for actual output times 100 divided by budgetary production in standard hours times 100. So nga to, standard hours for actual output, ang nagyapon 6,400 yan sa pinakababa. I-divide natin sa 7,200 yan ikatulog. Yan, budgetary standard hours 7,400. I-divide times natin sa 100. So, 6,400 divided by 7,200 is equal to 0.88 times 100. So, 88.8 or 80. Ato siya i-round off para mo mag-8. So, ang 88.8 i-round off nato, may mo siya na 89%. So, sa kung ano sa capacity ratio sa mga creator. Capacity ratio is equal to actual hours work divided by budgetary hours times 100. So, ang actual hours na to, 3,200 divided by 6,000 yan sa pinakauna, i-times sa 100. 3,000 divided by 6,000, 3,200 divided by 6,000 is equal to 0.53. Ato siya i-times sa 100, ang total is 53.3. Pag round off nato, 53 na gyapon siya. Kay less than 6 sa 5 ang amo na yun ang capacity lights na tapos of variance or disposal of variance ano itong ka-incidents and concern. All types of variance are transferred to costing, profit, or loss account. If inventories are valued at out of cost, current operational statements made available at an earlier date. The amount of variance in equitability distributed over cost of sales and stock of finished and semi-finished goods. By doing so, the cost of sales and stock is shown as actual cost in the financial statement. Each variance is carefully analyzed in accord with the cost of its just cost as a result of the cost could be transferred to cost profit and loss account. The variance return of uncontrollable costs should be less cost of sales and stock. However, when the variance has calculated the cost of research, they may not draw similar attention.